What it do, everybody that's here. You already know why you here. It is the listening. And the person you see with the long ass dreads in the background, you should know who that is. That's Myke C-Town. And today we are talking to Sadistik. But before I do the formal intro, you know what I'm saying? Just around the room. Everybody good? Of course Myke is gone.
That's classic. That's classic Myke.
Wow. I was pulling up the dead end video.
That's classic. Wow. Classic Myke, boy.
He didn't give you a real intro. I make my own, bro. We had those problems. Myke did. You know what I'm saying?
We haven't had those problems.
We haven't had that intro. That's why y'all fired me. Shit, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Not put that narrative out there. Myke was not
it's
fired.
The face he makes though when it happens. Yeah. You like a little kid, you know when you do something bad. Bruh, that's just classic, man.
I'm sorry, my bad.
But everybody good though? Everybody good. So C-Town. I want to get your perspective on how you found out about Sadistik. Like, what was your entry point to his music and like why you fuck with him?
Entry point, the album was Flowers for My Father, and it was sent to me by the homie Chesky, who I was already familiar with. We had hung out a couple of times, and he was like, hey man, I think you'd like this artist that I'm working with named Sadistik. He seems like he'd be up your alley. So I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. Whatever. I didn't know Chesky super well, so and people say shit like that. Oh yeah, you'll like this artist, right, and they send you some bullshit. Like, all right, bro, I don't know what the fuck. I don't know what about me made you think I'd like some bullshit. But he sent me Flowers for My Father, and I was like, God damn, this shit is dope. And it was immediately he had bars that referenced Edgar Allan Poe, and I was like, all right, I fuck with this guy. Yeah. I'm on board. You asked me what makes me fuck with him?
Yeah, like what is it that like outside obviously the Edgar Allan Poe, and I know he uses a lot of writers and stuff in his music, but like what is it about his music that keeps you coming back? Like why, like what makes you a fan of his music?
I just think I'm glad he's not on here to hear me say all this. I just think he's like a pure wordsmith. I think that he's easily one of the best rappers that's out right now that people are not paying enough attention to. I think there's a very, very, very solid reason as to why he has more of like a cult following. And like, there's a reason why this dude has people that really like ride for him. Like he puts a lot of heart into his lyrics. And then when he just wants to just bar out real quick, he can do that too. Then if he wants to like write something that's extremely like poignant and almost sad, but kind of realistic, or even sometimes minorly hopeful, he can do all that. So it's just like, I feel like I get a lot from Sadistik. And then, you know, if he feels like doing some wild ass trap shit, he can do that too. Yeah. So there's not that many rappers I know that are that versatile. Yeah. So that's what I like about him.
I will say that, Myke, that his versatility is one of his superpowers.
Yeah.
So now to the intro, since Myke really gave a really good background, I'm just gonna give y'all the discography because it's extensive. Ken, you know, sometimes we be doing D365 and I talk about being a volume rapper. Looking at how much work he's put in, let me know if this is how you feel. These are just the albums, by the way. The Balancing Act, that was his debut back in 2008. Flowers for My Father, which was Myke's entry point in 2013. Ultraviolet in 2014. Alters in 2017. Haunted Gardens in 2019. Bring Me Back, The World Is Cured,
which we reviewed.
2022, which we reviewed. And that also was with the producer No. Oblivion Theater 2024 with Moscow. And At Night, The Silence Eats Me in 2024 as well. So he dropped 2 albums in 2024. These are the EPs now. The Art of Dying in 2010 with Kid Called Computer. Pray for Paralysis in 2011 with Christoph Crane. Phantom Limbs with No, 2015. Salo Sessions, 2016. Salo Sessions 2, 2018. Thank you, Beezy. Delirium, 2020.
Lapel David.
No, ELYSIUM.
Oh, Elysium.
Elysium, 2020 as well. Yeah. And then Lapel du Vidi,
Sure.
Some French
Close
stuff.
enough.
Sure.
Yeah.
He'll correct you when he comes on.
2021. And then he has a compilation in 2012 features and free songs. Ken, is that a volume rapper?
That's a lot of albums.
That's
What,
a lot
14?
of projects. That's a lot of
Yeah.
projects. That's a lot of projects. But the man can talk about it himself. It is Sadistik. What it do, man?
What's up? Thanks for having me. DJ Finger Bang.
We need to get a soundboard or something. We need to get a soundboard.
What's up with you, man?
What's up, man? Glad to be here.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
man. Glad to have you on, bro.
Yes, sir. So
It's a lot of albums you just named. Fuck.
bruh. You've been putting in work.
Oh, so
to
he
say the
could hear
least.
us.
Yeah,
He could hear.
Oh, don't let your head get too big. You all right? You know what
No,
I'm saying?
I screen grabbed that, all that.
Yeah, he's just backstage.
Yeah. So I know we was talking off camera. You say you've been in LA now for close to a decade, but you grew up in Seattle, Washington. What was that like?
So I grew up in Eastern Washington in a small town called Yakima.
Okay.
Then I went to college in Central Washington and then to Seattle.
Okay.
So it's just been easier to say Seattle in general. But yeah, I grew up in a small like orchard community. Yeah.
Interesting.
So what was your origins of rap? Like, how did you become a rapper? Because we don't really get.
I mean, I was obsessed with it from a young age. I have an older brother, and he left like Tupac cassettes around the house and a lot of like West Coast gangster shit. And I was just obsessed with it, you know. So like, people usually assume I listened to like, or I came up on more abstract rap, but like I came up on like Spice One and Ant Banks and Lil Half Dead and all that shit at first.
Let's go.
And then I just kind of fell in love with it. Like Tupac and DMX specifically, like really made me fall in love with it. But I remember being like 10 years old and I had a stepdad and he said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I go, "I'm going to be a rapper." And he goes, "You're a fucking idiot." And I don't blame him. And I didn't think much of it. And then, you know, like fucking 20 years later, he called me out of the blue and he's like, "Hey, do you remember this? Like, I wanted to apologize to you."
That's sweet.
That's dope.
But yeah, I just fell in love with it from a young age. I was always into like drawing and painting and just making things. And so rap just kind of felt like the thing to do.
That's crazy. So you had already started rapping by the time he called to apologize?
Yeah, I was like, and he was in a band, so he was asking for like tips at that point. So he's like, "Do you know anybody?" I'm like, "Nah, bro." Definitely a full circle moment.
That's dope. Well, so you accepted the apology and everything? You was like,
Yeah, it was no hard feelings.
That's cool.
I don't blame him. I think it's a funny
Yeah.
thing to say.
Yeah.
I'm sure as an adult you can kind of understand why he would say that.
Yeah,
When you're a lot
definitely.
younger. It makes sense.
Be like, "Bro, try harder. Like, try harder first. Like go to school or something." Like,
No, I got you. Dang,
yeah, but
so-
I grew up like I used to mow lawns or go to door to door and like spray paint people's address numbers on the curb or whatever I could
okay.
to get money, and then I would try to score a ride to the record shop and then just terrorize the workers, asking what's cool, what's new, and you know, back in the days of yore when it was hard to access.
Right. That's crazy how mowing lawns is so universal like that. That's what I did as a kid. You know, mowing lawns for money.
So
yeah,
what led you to-
I'd get the source and then I'd see like when it was dropping and I'd just, you know, do a quick calculation. How many lawns do I got to mow?
Yeah, I did the same thing.
Good old days.
That's how I got my records. I would mow lawns, and my cousin, he was a little older than me, and we would mow lawns, get the money, and go to the record shops to buy cassettes.
Yeah, and you had to be more invested then, right? So if you just
Right,
like the single get it and the album sucks, it's like, well, I'm gonna listen to it like 12 times because I have to save up for it.
You had to make yourself
I'ma make
listen to
myself
it. Yep.
like it.
You had to,
Yeah.
exactly.
$10.
I spent $11 on this. I know I like this album.
Yeah, I'm listening to every JT Money song on this project, like no matter how many times it takes.
That JT Money.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So what led you to California?
My girl, she was in Brooklyn, moved out to Seattle after we barely knew each other and lived with me, and then she got kind of bored bored with the city, and I was just feeling pulled to LA. Like I had creative friends there. My friends in Seattle were more into sports and things like that, and I just felt pulled. Like I wanted to kind of go all in on what I was working on, and so the lady kind of gave me the push necessary to do it, and we just packed everything up. I threw my Rottweiler in the back seat, and we just took U-Haul, and that was it.
So fuck it. I feel that.
Yeah.
So all right, so let's fast forward a little bit. 2008, right? You drop your debut album, The Balancing Acts, on Clockwork Gray Music. So I got a couple questions. How did you get to finally releasing the project, and what made you select Clockwork Gray Music?
Clockwork Gray was just something I made up in my room. It was it was self-released. I was in college. I spent about 3.5 years working on that album, just trying to like be. I was very in this like perfectionism is the way kind of mentality. But I spent the whole college years just kind of like hiding on my own, making this record. And my dad passed away right before the album came out, and then I graduated right after. It was like 3 things in a row. And at the time, I was planning on going into PhD program for psychology. So I was doing interviews for that. And I got offered a show in Seattle where I played for maybe like 70 people, just some small show. And I skipped a PhD interview to do that show. And looking back, I think that was kind of the moment I decided, even if it wasn't consciously, that I didn't really want to do the school thing yet, and I wanted to give rap a real try. But I was very lost because my dad was kind of my North Star, you know. And so I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, but I released that album independently. This is in the MySpace era, and just slowly, some people started getting kind of obsessed with it. People started sending tattoos and things, and I was like, okay, maybe there's something to this. And that kind of sparked everything. But I was never really certain if I made the right choice until way later.
So is that the gap between the first album and the second album? Because it was 5 years.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and part of it was my mentality. I had this like I thought being an artist was getting struck by inspiration lightning, and or because I wrote sad songs that I had to wait until something bad happened to me before I could emote properly. And I kind of had a mentality that was slowing me down. I didn't realize that until later. So after Flowers to My Father, I approached it differently, where I'm like, I'm just going to treat this like anything else, like put the reps in. Every single day I'm going to record. Every day I'm going to write. Even if I throw away 100 songs, like who cares? I could find pieces that are good. And that's why, like, after Flowers to My Father, it's like pretty much every year I've released something because I approached it differently.
So what led you to, well, actually I have 2 questions about relationships you have, but one, how did you hook up with Chesky and then start releasing project on Fake 4?
It was just kind of mutuals. We'd hear about each other, and then I popped out to see him play in Seattle, and he was already kind of familiar with my stuff. And he was the first person to co-sign me or really take any kind of like financial chance on me. So that was, you know, I'm always grateful to him for that. Because I've always been somebody, even now, like I don't really fit in anywhere. So when I get on a label or PR person or any of that kind of shit, the theme is always like, we like it, but we don't know how to pitch it or describe it. And then my response is always, isn't that your job, not mine? You know, like, I just make it. You're supposed to describe it.
Right.
Straight up.
Yeah.
And then my other question, I know you've talked about this before, but for our audience, how did you form a relationship with Idea?
I messaged him on MySpace first.
Oh wow!
And I was a fan, big fan. And then I ended up, we were gonna do that song together, and it was on an Emancipator beat at the time. And the beat was literally called Waltz. So that song is in 6/8 timing. So it's like, so it's like the rap sounds like a waltz.
Wow.
And so then he came out to Seattle on tour, and we met in person. He came over, he crashed at my place that night, and we really clicked. And he told me, he's like, okay, now that I've seen you perform and we've met in person, like he's like, I kind of get your thing more. And so then he's like, I'm really gonna lock in on this song. And then we recorded it, and he passed away. And then I ended up kind of rebuilding a new beat around it because the song was so aged by then, it wasn't really fitting the direction. But I think the version that came out is better. And I think that's the only time he's rapped in that time signature.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that.
Interesting.
That's
Yeah,
super
but
interesting.
but I was a big fan, and like he's one of the biggest, inspirations on my career for sure. And like he was as precocious as it gets. Like that dude was light years ahead of all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
All right, so I got one more question before we jump into the first song. With all of the work you've put in, and here's the thing, right? Like I definitely don't consider myself a rapper. Doing one verse was hard enough. I think everybody here except for Rock could probably agree to that. However, with all of the work that you put in, what would you say is your favorite project, regardless if it's an EP or album? Like, what's your favorite and why?
Something, I don't know if it's best, but something about Haunted Gardens is always closest to my heart. I think that's the most like vulnerable project. Like if I got raptured today, like that's the one I would want people to listen to like get an idea of like what was in my head, you know?
You have that same feeling about that album?
Yeah, no, that album's beautiful.
Mike said it was my disintegration, and I'll never forget that. It was a great compliment.
I was literally about to say that exact same thing. I do feel like it's the album that feels the heaviest to me. When I listen to it, even if I'm taking away all the flows he's playing with, if I'm just looking at it from a word aspect, the way the entire thing sounds, it just feels like it's just, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but it's a dark album, but at the same time, there's like this little glimmer of light that's dribbled in there in certain places. So yeah, it's a beautiful project.
Dope. All right, well, the first, the old joint that you sent in is called Modern Times. Kind of intro that and tell us the reason why you picked it.
So I really struggled with picking an old song because I'm like, I don't listen to my old stuff. Like I'm so critical of it. It's just like, it's just a bad combination for me. So I was asking my wife, I'm like, which one should I give them? And she kept saying these kind of emotional, rappy ones. And I was like, Feefo's not going to fucking feel that, bro. I got to give him something like with a little more like grit to it. So I tried to pick something that would touch on all of it, you know? But yeah, this isn't an old hit. It wasn't a hit at all, but I think it's it's a deep cut that I just thought would be worth revisiting. So it's the opening song to my EP, Lapel du Vide.
All right.
Yeah, that motherfucker bumping the whip.
Yeah, you can tell. Even in the headphones, you can tell.
There we go.
That motherfucker bumping the whip right there.
Mood setter.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting? Like on a lot of these listenings that we've been doing, a lot of people sent us their intro.
Like the opening track.
Like the
or
opening
whatever
track.
Yeah.
So would you say, do you consciously go into projects like the opening track has to set the tone, or sometimes?
Majorly. It's huge. Okay. I am a project maker. Like I don't really do singles like that. And opening songs and closing songs are definitely like some signatures of my projects, I think. A lot of times I try to like immediately divert expectations. If people think this is going to happen, like song one, I want to immediately disappoint them or pivot and let them know that their expectations probably aren't going to be like aligned with this, you know? Yeah, but I think all of us, well, not to speak for everybody, but I imagine the listener is skeptical as fuck when they hit play. Their friend sent them the project and they're like, whatever. And so I want that first song and the second song always have to like really establish the tone, right? If the first two songs are bad, the project's probably bad.
True.
Yeah.
That's true. I was gonna say, ask Mike actually, what older song would you have picked for him to play today if you had to pick an older song?
Oh shit, that's hard. You should have sent me that before I came up here.
That's what I asked. You know, I'm asking the tough
Damn.
questions.
Well, I actually am pretty. I was surprised that this was as far back as you went. I probably would have went. I probably would have went with something off Altars. I probably. Shit, man, that's hard.
Like,
That's how I felt. I couldn't pick.
Like just as an intro, you know what I'm saying? Like, because obviously, you know, that we would want to pick something that would be a good intro to Sadistic or whatever for somebody for a new listener. That's why we do. That's why we do the ones to go back
old ones, yeah.
or whatever. So like, what would that be? Like, oh man, you might dig Sadistic. This is one of his old joints.
Oh, so you mean like if I was gonna tell y'all all over again, like I did for 10 years, that y'all should go listen to this? What song should I send you? I'm gonna give me 2 seconds and I'm gonna tell you.
Okay, that's
Free
cool.
Spirits.
Yeah. Oh, Free Spirits.
I'll go that way. Free
Okay.
Spirits. Anytime, this sounds so fucking whack. Anytime me and my girl are getting like I'm drinking a bunch, that song pops in my head every time. They want us all to get fucked up, Free Spirits. And I don't say it out loud while I'm drinking. In my head, I'm just like,
You be bopping, everybody like, what the fuck
and
you
she's probably
listening
gonna be
to?
like, what the fuck is wrong with this dude? And there's no way that I can explain it, you know?
yeah,
But yeah, I think that's probably the one I would go with. And plus, I just fucking love that video. I think that video is incredible. So yeah, that's one I would
Yeah, I
go
see
with.
somebody say Free Spirits. Free Spirits is amazing. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, Altars is still my favorite. I wouldn't say it's his best project, but Altars,
It's your
there's something
personal
about
favorite.
that album that every time I'm in I don't know, man. It's just an incredible project. But yeah. So I know you said you don't listen to a lot of. Was that your only question? My
Yeah,
bad.
that was it.
I know you said you don't really go back to your old stuff because you're too critical, which I get. But is that the only reason you didn't pick an older song?
I was considering Free Spirits and I was considering Chemical Burns, and I actually emailed you guys like 10 minutes before this just started. I was like, Chemical Burns. so yeah, I struggled to choose on that one.
That was a good one though.
Chemical
I'm not
Burns
saying that to
would've
say
been
that
good.
what you picked wasn't good because it actually was good like that. I was just curious about what Mike would have picked.
For me, it's like seeing an old picture of yourself and like criticizing the outfit. You know, you're like, oh, I wear something so different right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that feeling.
I'm like that with the Dead End videos. Going back to Dead End, I'm like, oh my god, what was I thinking when I shot that way? You know, but yeah, I'm like that with old stuff too, like old
Yeah,
creative
but
work.
it's it's in the eye of the beholder. You know, a lot of people that listen to my stuff, they think the early stuff is definitely the best and the later stuff's not. So it just depends who it is. They're wrong, but they could think that.
Let me ask, before we move on to the next one, let me ask one more question about Modern Times. So when I reviewed the album, the one thing I never do is I never ask him if I got the concepts right, because I know I don't.
Okay.
And he's too nice to say that I don't.
I wouldn't answer it anyway.
Okay, good. Perfect. Perfect. But, well, shit, I guess that kind of fucks up my question.
I'll go for it though. Give it a shot. Give it a shot.
So in the video, when I reviewed that album, that EP, I had said that what that song said to me was it sounded like a person that was battling with very intense paranoia.
Yeah.
Is that even remotely close to what you were doing?
Yeah, paranoia is a big theme in it. There's a lot of like visuals of your own house or your own walls just kind of like working against you, and like abysses in the bathroom, the rotten,
Right.
like the opening line is abysses in the bathroom, the rotten petals are lingering. So it's just like, ideally it immediately kind of puts you in that like visual world of just like kind of decaying, being eaten by your own walls.
So I got one follow-up question. So like, yeah, and then you have a follow-up bar that's something about the netherworld reaching out to me or whatever. Do you ever get people that will turn that stuff on and be like, oh nah, this weirdo satanic white boy, I'm not listening to this.
Oh yeah, all the time. I get it. I mean, one of the most common comments is like, I won't listen to it because of his name, you know, like, and it's also like, you know, people that have that kind of mentality, they're probably not my audience anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, see ya, it's all good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same thing with the album artwork. You know, a lot of people are like, the artwork's a little too intense for me, you know, so it's like, But if you're not into that visual world, it's kind of a niche thing, you know. It's a specific visual.
Do you come up with your album artwork concepts or?
Yeah, usually I'll have an idea or an artist that I want to work with, and then go from there. So like the last handful have been hand painted on purpose because there's such like a devaluing of art right now, and people turn it into a prompt or whatever, and so I want to like kind of have an old approach to that, have real art, have like real thought behind it, and ideally give people something to think about while they're hearing it.
But I want to dive into that a little bit deeper because I think I've mentioned it on a review before about the album artwork. In the hip hop world, how do I want to phrase this? I think you know what I'm kind of saying, but
That
like
scared you a little bit.
No, it's not. It's not a scare thing, but like it could be a turnoff to a traditional hip hop fan, right? Because it's like it looks more on like the rocks, heavy metal side of things. Like, so who are you actually trying to garner as fans with the artwork? Like, what is the idea behind it? I'm sorry, I'm sorry if I'm not getting this out right.
No, that makes sense. You're who are you aiming this at?
Yeah.
I don't really put much thought into it, but I aim it for outsiders, people who feel like they don't quite fit into certain boxes. You know what I mean? And because like my stuff, some people are like, oh, it's intense and metal or horrorcore because they'll see the name, but then you listen to some of these projects and they're just very soft and pretty and more poetic.
Yes.
So there's a lot of like contradictions and contrasts happening, which is not easy to market, but it's really fun to make.
Yeah, I respect it. I get it. Like, because I kind of do that too. Like, people expect me to be like, real monotone and whatever. So I hit them with something like just rah rah or whatever. So I get the dichotomy with between like just trying to knock people off the pivot and all that. But as someone that's taking it as a serious career, I was just trying to understand like marketing wise or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I'm terrible at marketing and I shoot myself in the foot constantly. So like, for example, the Solo Sessions 2 cover like was impossible for people to share because they'd get put in social media jail. Like even to this day, people message me on Facebook and they're like, they put me in timeout for a couple of weeks because I posted a song, and it's like, all right. So stuff like that is not, it's not intelligent marketing, but like, I didn't start doing this for marketing, like that was the kind of shit I was trying to avoid. So, and so many people are so good at marketing that I just kind of like, I just orbit on the outside. And if people find it, then it, it's meant for them.
Yeah, no, I got you.
Yeah, he got me demonetized for that shit.
Huh?
He got me demonetized.
Oh, really?
For that video.
Damn.
I don't get views anyway, but
Yeah.
Wow. And yeah, that's what I was wondering. Yeah, so
it's just off a thumbnail. But anyway.
Let me ask you this before we move to the next joint. Do you feel fatherhood has changed your pen at all? Or do you feel like you're gonna still go the direction you're going regardless?
I think it's indelibly it's changing me. So even if I didn't want it to change the pen, it's going to, because I'm just seeing things differently, right? So like we just had Father's Day. I've always associated that with like sadness and loss, and now it's like it's a completely new meaning. And so there are things like that I feel like it's changing me a lot, and it's going to come out whether I want it to or not. But the upcoming project though is very not fatherly. it's mean and dark. But maybe the one after that will be a little softer.
Gotcha.
I like that.
So the current joint.
Mean and dark?
I stay in the dark, bro.
So you're dwelling, man.
You dwelling,
bro. Ken, what's the name of the current one? Because I don't see it on here. I just see like 04.
Cool. What is it?
60.
60? Okay. Bet. So the current joint is called 60.
That's not what that's.
460. It
Oh,
says 60.
04. Okay, I didn't know if.
Oh yeah, I
it's-
sent you like the actual like file from the engineer.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Okay. Bet.
Master version.
Yep,
6.
you know that's from the
Yeah.
engineer. You know it's from the engineer whenever he says that.
You know, someone in the comments gonna be like only one master. Like
Right. Because what? I was
Poser.
like, on 4
Should have
or 5
mastered
or
it
something.
twice.
Yeah. Right.
So this joint is called 60. Why did you pick this joint?
So I released 2 albums last year, and so I was trying to pick between those. And this one I think is just an example of me just kind of. I think this is an example of what I specifically do, writing and flow wise. Again, you're not getting a chorus, but it's just kind of like a bar fest.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so if someone hasn't heard my music and they want to see like what I have to offer technically, I think this is a decent example of that.
All right.
Oh.
Still in hell, frozen a cold winter night. Kill myself slow like the wolf and the knife. If we're all the same.
All right.
Nah, that was. So.
Silence.
No. Because
Probably
I want to get the thought out. I want to get the thought out.
He's gonna cry.
Yo, like that's
He
a
just
lot
ran
of bars.
Feefo off the road.
I know, because I wanted to get it out before I forget. Y'all know how I am. But man, breath control. So did you?
See, I
that's
knew you
what
was
you're
gonna take it. No, that's what I was gonna ask.
So like it's my little experience that I'm having right now with rap. Like the breath control, bro. Like, was this? So did you punch in at all, or just a straight?
Yeah, I'll layer it, but everything I do,
okay.
I can perform live though.
Yeah.
Where a lot of people they'll have their like backing vocals and all that, but I'll do these like big ass like 64 verses, 60 bar verses live.
Man.
Yeah, because I was listening, and that's the first thing I'm listening. I'm like, bro, what the fuck did he breathe? Like, what the fuck is going on here? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So no, that was literally my question.
Oh, okay, my bad.
That was literally my
I was
question.
just thinking because B can attest to this, man. I like when I be trying to get stuff out, I struggle with breath control. I'm
Yeah.
trying to learn how to do
It's a practice thing, and I can hear it. I can hear it in recordings when people run out of breath and then they punch in, where it's like you should have done another one of those, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because sometimes I feel like there's some artists that when they breathe, it's almost like part of the verse. It's like, that sounds dope there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But you didn't have none of that. So I'm like, wait,
Killer Mike
how
does
the
that one was only had,
Killer Mike.
Yep.
but yeah, you can hear it, and I don't really. That doesn't my ear. I like it sometimes when it's used purposefully, but when it's always kind of like Legoed, my ear doesn't like that as much. But that song, the last like 24 was one take.
Yeah, man. Oh, golly.
How many
Different
takes did it
appreciation.
take? Oh, I'm sorry. Go
I
ahead.
was just saying, just a different appreciation trying to do it.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's just
yeah.
a whole nother appreciation.
They make it sound so easy, bro.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
This is just a rap nerd question.
But how many takes was God Mode?
I recorded that in probably like 40 minutes total.
What?
Yeah,
serious?
When I get in, I can knock it out pretty quick at this point.
I'll play that when we're done.
Yeah.
That's fucking insane.
Wow.
But you know, like, we've been around enough professional rappers.
True.
You know, and in studio, not just
yeah, you're
listen, right? Like where, like another artist that I marveled at was Sky Zoo. Like that motherfucker came in there, I'm like, what? What?
Did you practice? No, I just woke up.
Yeah.
It's crazy, bro.
Yo, nah,
Like my song All the Pretty Horses from Elysium for Patreon. One morning I was like, jump on live, I'm gonna make a song for you. And it was just in my kitchen in my old apartment in LA, and I recorded that in like 2 or 3 takes, and I was like, all right, it's done, bye. Like that, you know. Sometimes it takes days where I just gotta find the right pocket for it. But once I have the flow down pretty good, it's quick.
that's crazy.
Damn.
No, that's dope, bro.
Yeah.
Different appreciation. And I love that song too, man. The flow. Like I'm always big on flow. That's always when people say, "Yo, what's the most important part?" Like flow is always that thing that kind of
It's the catch.
It's something about flow, man. Because you know, if you can't find that pocket, it can kind of knock you off. Unless you like Billy Woods or someone like that have that like really off kilter.
Yeah, you just create your own.
Yeah.
That's a flow too, though.
It is. That's what I'm saying.
That's like it's like a meta flow. So like, it's like once you get so good at something, you start diverting, right? So like sometimes people, if they have really strict rhyme schemes at the end, they'll make you think it's one word and they'll purposely not rhyme.
Yeah.
Like that's a big that's a tool I use a lot, where you just kind of like hypnotize the ear for one thing and then flip it real quick and then bring it back to remind them of the pocket.
It's breaking the rules when you become a real a true artist. You know what I'm saying? Like I've always been told that like once you learn the rules, you can then break the rules.
Yeah, that's why it's like bending some words. Like some artists, they don't do that until later in their career, and you can tell it's because their level's getting so high that they're getting bored with themselves and they're starting to find new techniques.
I 100% agree. I always pick that out with artists because I'm like, that's why I know I can't be a rapper. I can't bend a word, bro. Like I'm technical. Like my English teacher would love me because when I write a rhyme, it's grammatically correct. Like I can't do it no other way. Like it's not easy to bend words or to stretch a word out. Like
I've never heard you say conversate. So I believe
he's like the flow is a 7, but the grammar's a 10.
Yeah, right. This is true.
I always got like B pluses and A's in English. You know what I'm saying? It was easy to me, but I can't rap though.
So I have go ahead.
Real quick, because mine is real simple.
No, go ahead.
Like, cause like that song was super dope, and I think like looking at a cover, you would never know that type of song is on. Cause what album was that off of?
His last
That's the last one.
The last album.
At Night the Silence Eats Me.
Yeah. You wouldn't think that something like that was on that. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like damn, and I know that's part of the allure, right? You said that.
Yeah,
you said
it's either like
right.
interesting or it's just terrible marketing. It just depends who you ask.
Got you. That was it. It was
no, you're good.
Yeah.
The question I was going to ask is, so you have a line on here, which was my favorite line from the whole project, but the question is kind of twofold. So one, do you ever just write shit and then be like, I'm surprised nobody said that? Because when you said how many cis teens hide in a 16, I was seriously like, oh my God, that is the dopest fucking line. How has no one prior to 2024 said that?
Yeah, that's the high you're chasing. You're trying to go like, oh fuck, I found something. What kills me more is like I'll see like certain bars of other people go like viral where it's getting quoted everywhere, and then I'll like search the bar in my notes, and I'm like, fuck, I had that like 10 years ago. I just didn't release it.
You fucked up.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have like thousands of notes in my thing, so it's like I have so much just lost verses and songs. It's crazy.
If you had to pick, because you dropped 2 albums that year, you dropped Oblivion Theater, which I still think is incredible. If you had to pick a song from that album instead of the one that you just threw out, which one would you pick? Because I know which one. I'm gonna go first, so I'm gonna give you 10 seconds to think.
All right.
I would have gone Pig's Blood, because the first time I heard Pig's Blood, I was like, holy shit, Pig's Blood on your prom dress. I was like, this shit is fucking hard as hell. So
open carry towards a cop, Pig's Blood on your prom dress.
That's one of my favorite lines from the whole project.
Yeah, it's sometimes you got to be aggressive, keep their attention. Yeah, that was a very polarizing song. Like my YouTube comments were all over the place on that one, but
really?
I really don't care. It's just like, if you don't like it, wait for the next one. There's other rappers.
Nah, the ODB reference started. I was like, this shit is so fucking hard. But
I was just having fun with it because my neighbor was always bitching at me and like complaining about noise, and I got that beat and I was like, let me make a little hate song to my neighbor.
So if you couldn't pick that one, what song would you have thrown out?
I would say Shabari or With You.
Okay.
I would say Shabari would be more of the, for other people. For me, With You is probably the best song on there.
Yeah, that's a beautiful one.
Okay. Or Alaskan Snow, because that song I'm talking about, like my mom, kind of my roots where she used to walk to school in Alaska, and just kind of like reflecting on like how my parents have impacted me like so much later in my life.
Okay, cool, dope.
Yeah. So this is the one that you have to become a patron for if you miss it live, because you can't hear it nowhere else until Sadistik decides to drop whatever project that this joint is on.
I'm gonna send you a sound effect next time. The next listen, I'm sending you a sound effect.
Okay.
Exclusive.
All right.
I'm sending you something for you to push whenever we do these unreleased joints for the listeners. You know what I'm saying? Don't tell nobody.
So this joint is called Kiss the Ring featuring Cage. Now, before we get into it and why you picked this one, is this going to be on an up and coming project?
Yeah, so I have an EP with the duo called Nowhere to Run, and they're from the band Code Orange. I think Myke, you probably know them. Right, so Jamie from Code Orange and Shade, they started a production outfit called Nowhere to Run, and they're putting out a bunch of dope artists from different genres. And so we made an EP. I would describe it like dirty East Coast Alchemist kind of beats, made with a little bit of like industrial influence. Yeah, I know Myke is over there; his wheels are churning. But it's this is why I was saying it's not a very fatherly record. It's dark. It's kind of mean. I approached it like, in my mind, I was thinking like if Mixtape Wayne was really into like true crime and like 70s horror. So, you know, a lot of like serial killer and drug references and shit like that. But yeah, it's a hard project. I love the sonics of it. They did a really crazy job on the mixing and effects and all that. But yeah, so I got Cage on this, who's one of my all-time favorite rappers, a good friend of mine, and it's been too long since we've done a song together. So I wanted to get him on something dark. So yeah, here's the intro to that.
But I didn't even know he was still rapping.
Yeah.
And hold on, okay, before you press that button, everybody that's watching the replay, you're not gonna hear the music unless you become a Patreon. So I'm gonna give you 5 seconds right now to go become a patron, so that way you can get the replay and you can listen to Kiss the Ring before it comes out. All right, so go ahead.
That boy, marketing. See that?
Yeah, okay, that's what I gotta learn, bro.
See that?
Yeah.
See that?
Oh man.
All right, let's go.
I'm fully fired, mix the carbon with the oxygen. Car bombs popping off, Molotovs are opulent. Popping obelisk, perk perfect for apocalypse. Pocket full of pocket picks, positively not to test on the precinct.
Okay. What the fuck?
You guys think of that one.
Man, that's
That's
hard.
ridiculous.
That shit hard as hell.
Ooh, that's hard.
Yeah.
I see the Alchemist industrial
Yeah.
type. Oh man, that was crazy.
I had the stank face the whole time. Like,
Yeah.
that's a stank face song.
There we
Put that
go.
shit
That's what we
on.
needed.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Obviously, it bumping the whip.
Yeah.
Like it. You have to listen to that joint with other hip hop heads. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's a hip hop head song.
And you banging your head
Yeah,
like
yeah,
instantly.
100%.
Like, ooh.
100%.
Yeah, yeah.
Some of
Now
that
that's
beat
that
drop.
shit.
Yeah.
That's that
So
shit.
the Code Orange guys produced that?
Yep.
That's crazy. I did not
Yeah,
know that
they
they were
produced
even
the whole
rap.
project. Yeah,
Wow.
so yeah, the production's crazy on this. They do a lot of great mixing and effects work.
Wow.
We got a video coming for it that we shot. Fatboy Sharif's in that one.
I love me some Fat Boy
Yeah,
Sharif.
yeah.
As a rapper and a human. Love that guy.
Yep, yep. And then we got a joint with I don't know if I'm supposed to say it, but we got a joint with Ice Cold Bishop on it too. So yeah, it's
that's
a
dope.
fun project. It's a fun project.
Uh-oh.
I can say I'm gonna be slapping motherfuckers this year. Just for Maybe not mine.
The Dave Chappelle was
Slapping everybody.
I heard the Pac influence in this one, with the P's, like when you was using like the, you know how
Prepare
Pac
battle past the pump. If I die tonight,
Yes,
yeah, I know, bro.
Yes, you know exactly what I'm saying.
Like
Yes,
10-year-old
I heard it.
me, I used to put that song on repeat and go to sleep to it before
Yes.
I went
Oh
to
my
school,
God.
like the 5th grade. But yeah,
I heard
that's
it.
where I learned what alliteration was if I
Yes.
die tonight.
Yes, bro. I heard it. I was
Yeah.
like, man, I see the Pac influence right there. There it is.
Yeah, I try to stir in a lot of like old school rap references, but it's usually in kind of abstract stuff. So I feel like a lot of it might fly
That's
over.
dope. That's dope. That's dope.
Hold on, real quick. Before we get into the Patreon questions, everybody that's currently live on YouTube, go ahead and send in your super chats, and we'll get to your super chats after the Patreon questions. So,
Oh yeah, I don't think we said that.
yeah, no, I didn't say in the beginning, but you know, hey,
I
they
want to
got
hear that
time now.
Ant Banks reference.
Get it
B.
in, get it in.
That's what I want to
Are you about to move on? Because I do have a question about this song.
No. We're not moving on just yet. Yeah. In terms of the EP, do we know how many songs? I know you
It's
said
eight.
the phone part. 8 songs.
It's 8 tracks, little over 20 minutes, and it just it's a really poignant, compact 20 plus minutes.
But
Yeah, there's like, it feels like there's no space really wasted on this project.
and you know what? And that's the thing that we love about EPs, because there is no room to miss. There is no room for filler. Get in, get
Yeah.
out. You know what I'm saying? Your 15, 20 minutes, you know what I'm saying? It has to. And if this is any indication of what that's gonna be like, and I know you already dropped an unreleased gem of who else is gonna be on the project, we appreciate that, you know. But yeah, no, that's gonna be a banger.
Yeah.
That's
We appreciate
definitely
it,
a
man.
banger.
Appreciate you sharing that with us for real. Like we always.
Yeah, I'll send you guys the whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh hell yes.
Yeah, so you can slap people around Atlanta.
Right. Don't send it to Mike since he left the show. Don't send it to him.
Fired me twice.
This shots for no
I didn't
reason.
do nothing.
I know.
Nah,
I wasn't even
Mike-
gonna slap him, B. Right.
Now you got to.
Now you know what I'm saying?
Now you got to do it. Right.
Go ahead. What you was about to say, bro?
Oh, I was saying Mike is like the Azazel, like the demonic evangelist for me. I've had people in other countries be like, "Yo, I found you through Mike. I found you
that's
through Mike."
dope.
Like,
That's
I get that
dope.
so many
I love
places. Yeah.
Yeah, when
Doing my
I
job. That's awesome.
yeah, because then if I Google search you, Mike stuff pops up a lot, like his
Yeah.
reviews and stuff. Like that's dope.
That's one of those things where it's like, you know, I'm old, and when I say I do like YouTube videos, it sounds fucking lame as shit. But then when I hear something like that, it's like,
like,
okay,
oh, it's
well,
worth- yeah,
it's
yeah,
worth
it's worth
it.
it, yeah.
It's
You
worth
don't
it
need-
that this person thinks I might be lame,
Yep.
but some other fucking person in Europe or whatever
Found the new
found
artist
dope
they
music
love.
because
Yep.
they ran across one of my lame ass videos or one of our lame ass videos. So I think that kind of shit makes it
Hey, man,
worth it.
keep the lameness to
Oh,
yourself.
I'm sorry. You're right. Well, I said hour. I said hour. It didn't. It was less lame when I left. You told me I couldn't do videos with Tom no more. But no, my question is this. So it always surprised me. I feel like I'm yelling for some reason.
Probably 'cause you got the headphones
Yeah,
on.
look,
Probably.
Mike.
Oh yeah, you're right. You did tell me to do that. Oh yeah, it's way more calm. You sound like me and shit. You sound like right. No, my question is, it always surprised me that you and Cage didn't have more songs. Because you haven't done anything with him, as far as I know, since Russian Roulette, right?
Yeah, I mean we've stayed good friends since, but yeah, he lurks in the shadows, man. He kind of does, like, he is such a unique one of us. When we started this project, I was like, Cage needs to be on this. It just it seems necessary, you know. I love his verse on that. It's mean as hell.
Yeah, I've definitely kept up with him throughout all of his projects, and he's had an interesting arc from start to finish. And no, I guess it's not finished, but when y'all kind of like, when I realized that y'all were tight, I was like, they're like kindred spirits. Like there should be dozens and dozens of songs with these two, especially since he's more into like the occult and stuff. I was like,
Yeah,
this would
yeah.
be really, really dope. But I'm glad we got at least these 2 songs.
Yeah, he was a big inspiration for me. Like, remember Kazam or Kazaa? That it was basically Napster.
Oh yeah,
Kazaa.
I remember that.
Yeah. Agent Orange was the first song I ever downloaded on that. And so it's funny. Like years and years later, we're friends, and it's like yeah, I used to drive a couple hours to go to your show. You know, like it's just funny how time like reveals shit like that. But
yeah.
yeah, he's amazing. Like he has an incredible discography. I think people say ahead of their time too often, but like things that he got kind of attacked for, it became very popular and in vogue shortly after.
Yep.
I felt like he was always ahead of people.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I would go to my deathbed saying everything he did on that Leak Brothers album with Tame One, rest in peace, is some of the best rapping I've heard come from the underground or the overground.
Yeah, he's just super raw, and he has
Yeah.
such like vicious visuals, and he'll go places with his words that like most rappers won't. And so like even since a teenager, I've always been like just a huge fan of his work.
Yeah, most rappers won't say, I fucked the first 2 pitches like dogs and I jacked off on the third. Most rappers won't say that.
Yeah, but it needs to be said.
It does. It happens sometimes.
Someone's got to do it. Someone's got to do it. There's an audience that needs it. Yeah.
Right. Oh shit, I got y'all demonetized again, huh? See, this is why they fired me, because I've been saying shit like this.
Not at all, not at all. All right, so we're gonna get into the Patreon questions, but look, for everybody watching live, go ahead and send in your super chats if you have any questions for Sadistik. Go ahead and send those joints in. And Ken, do you have them? The questions.
Yeah. I got.
I bet. How many you got? Because I think we just got a couple of new ones in here.
2, 3, 4. I think I got 6.
Perfect. Yep.
All right.
Bet.
Whoa. That's
What he done pulled up?
covered up the whole screen.
Took up the whole screen.
That was like a Fight Club flicker.
Yeah. Okay, let me just read it then. Hold on. So we're gonna start with Brandon Williams. They said, I was happy to see you work with Crazy Bone. Can you describe the impact Bone Thugs had on your music?
Oh, I love Bone. I mean, the first CD I ever bought was the single of East 1999. I remember when I first heard Bone Thugs and Harmony, I was like, what the fuck is this? And then, and I didn't, back then I didn't know what a single was. And they were both called East 1999. I'm like, why is there only one song on this shit? But yeah, I was really big on their first 2 albums growing up. I ended up doing an interview. He interviewed me for his podcast years ago. And, he was really gracious, and on the podcast, he's like, we should work sometime. And I was like, say less. I initially sent him that song Pet Cemetery, which he didn't want to jump on. But I even have a line in there. I mentioned Ruthless, like as a little like old school Bone reference. But here's a good story. Well, maybe it's good. But ages ago in Seattle, I opened for Bone before I knew Crazy. And it was at this shitty venue where they way oversold the tickets. So after my set, I literally had to stand on my merch booth because there was no room to stand. But I had this great vantage point to backstage, and they started playing Notorious Thugs, right? So the whole crowd's rapping Biggie's part, and I'm watching Bizzy Bone because I've always been a huge Bizzy Bone fan. He's like the most wild.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm watching him, and he's got these little like fingerless leather gloves, and he looks really fucked up. He's kind of like losing his balance. And so right before his verse comes, I see him from my vantage point walk backstage, puke everywhere.
Oh,
and Lazy Bone runs and grabs him by the shirt, and Bizzy Bone came and goes, it's 7-8, get my, and he just like just immediately slaughtered the verse. And I was like, I fucking knew it. I love Bizzy Bone, bro. After that, I was like, I knew he was the hardest one.
Ain't mind you be shooting.
that is wild. That is a wild story.
That is.
Damn.
Yeah, that's dope. All right, Brandon Farr, who do you consider to be your top influences? Can be all music related or business or life in general.
I mean, if we're going deep like that, it's my dad. But musically, it's a lot of like old school stuff. Tupac, DMX. I listen to a lot of indie rock, a lot of like black metal and weird stuff like tonally. But film is a huge inspiration on all my stuff. I think people who make stuff, you kind of have this gumbo of influences that just come out in different ways, and some people are selective with which ones come out, and you can kind of like have a valve and choose how much of that inspiration to let in. But for straight rap, I would say Andre 3000, Lupe, Idea, and Cage.
Okay, Keith Thomas says, I love your collaboration with Noah of the Cunnilinguist. I was wondering how the projects came about.
So at first, Noah didn't fuck with me before we even met, because when I released an album called The Art of Dying, he released a project called Death is Silent, and they got compared to each other. And then through an acquaintance I had was pitching a tour with me on it to Noah, and that guy was kind of goofy. And so I got associated with the goofy, like by association. And so like at first he didn't really fuck with me, but then as a few years went by, he kind of like popped his head out, like, and so he did a song on Flowers for My Father. And then I flew out to LA from Seattle to do Phantom Limbs. and I recorded that video for "To Be in Love." And then when I went back to Seattle, I showed my girlfriend that it was about. She'd never heard it, and then she was crying on the couch. And then I ended up moving to LA right after that.
Oh,
But he's
that's a
really
good
easy
story.
to work with. Yeah, No's really easy to work with because usually people send me a beat pack and I pick like the 1 or 2 best and then go, give me another pack, please. But with No, like for the last album, every single beat he sent me, I rapped on, and every single song made the album. So there's just no fat on it.
Wow. Yeah, he was super easy because he sent us packs for the joint album we did, and like he was one of the main ones that was just like, yo, here you go. Like it was hella beats. He wasn't like trying to, oh yeah, you get the, here go a little pack right here. Now he was just like, whatever you want, just pick it. So yeah, he was really cool.
He gave me an extra thumbnail full of beats just to listen to.
I remember that. Yeah,
I still got it.
Yeah.
What the fuck? I don't get thumbnails of beats. I get occasional emails with an attachment, bro. I want the thumbnail.
Yeah, I don't remember the thumbnail either. But
Yeah, he talked to me.
I remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember
he
talking about
Because
it.
I missed the session. And I was so upset. I was so
you
upset.
sure did miss that.
Rubbing in, motherfucker.
Yeah.
He said, "Ooh."
You did miss that.
That shit was so
Sorry.
dope, man. Oh my god.
That was great.
Yeah.
Seeing them work together was
And being silly as hell. They was so silly the whole fucking time.
But then when it's time to
When it was
rap,
time to rap, they got busy,
it was
bro.
crazy. So yeah, that was a good experience with No. I can attest to that. I say that to say that I can attest.
He's a true producer where he knows exactly what he wants. He knows exactly what he thinks sounds good and bad, and I think he has a good idea of what I sound best on. So I have more trust in him than most producers. If he sends me something, I'll jump on it, regardless.
The next two are very similar. One is from Braylon and one is from Dylan. So Braylon asked, "What are you currently reading, and do you have any book recommendations?" And Dylan wrote, "One of the things that first attracted me to your music were the literary references throughout your music. Who are some of the authors that have inspired your writing style the most? And do you approach writing songs as if you were writing a short story or such?"
That's a good question.
Right now I'm reading William Gibson's Neuromancer, which is kind of like the beginning of like cyberpunk shit, just out of curiosity. But recommendations, I'm just gonna say the first 2 that come to mind. Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian. There's a book I read recently called The Lucifer Principle that's this really interesting anthropological stance on why evil is necessary for humans to evolve, called The Lucifer Principle. And for inspiring my style of writing, a lot of female poets. I'm a big Sylvia Plath fan, Anne Sexton, Una Kazern, like sad women poetry. I tend to be drawn to that kind of prose, and I'm big on Cormac McCarthy. I like Nabokov. I like purpley prose, which I know wouldn't be surprising, but so sometimes when people are like it's overwritten, I'm like, nah, it's just right.
With that said, though, like I know you said Lupe was an influence. Have you ever put poetry on any of your albums, like kind of Lupe does, or?
No, not just straight up poetry. I get the ick from spoken word. Like someone on a mic who's like, "Dah," and they present a poem. Like it's just like, it's kind of like innately goofy to me, bro. And that's coming from someone who like writes poetry in his spare time. I'm like, I'd never fucking perform this. But no.
Got you.
like sometimes when I get too drunk, I'll start doing like spoken word impressions and shit for my friends. But that shit was funny.
With the up and down inflections, I go
yeah,
there, and then you go there.
Yeah, you think that, but what really is that, it's like if I say this in the most annoying way possible, maybe it'll have some weight to it.
But I've always liked how Lupe utilizes Sister to do.
Yeah, I wasn't hating on his. It works great for him. He's good at weaving in concepts into his projects. I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, so I think he does it well. But I feel you though. It could come off kind of corny, but
yeah. And
Lupe
I don't know anybody that's good enough at poetry that I'd put on it, to be honest.
And what about writing songs? As if you were writing a short story.
I actually do write short stories. I'm working on a screenplay right now. So I've been spending the last few years like really learning the actual like techniques and rules of actual story writing. So that's kind of a direction I'm headed in. But in general, with songs, like some songs I'll have a more direct meaning to it, but a lot of songs I write, they kind of hover in the more abstract stuff where I kind of swim around in subconscious a lot. So like when people say, when you kill it, you're like, oh, you blacked out, or he's unconscious right now. And it's like, I think there's something to that where your subconscious has a lot of the juice, the creative juice. And I kind of try to get in that spot, and I'll start writing just the visuals of it, or like a comparison of something that might look like something that's very different. Like I'll think eyelashes look like a Venus flytrap. What can I do with that? So I try to swim around in the abstract a lot, because a lot of rap is, when they tell a story super directly, that's not really my vibe as much.
Are you reading Save the Cat?
Yeah, I've read Save the Cat for sure.
Okay.
But the stories I write, the cats are never saved.
Yeah.
Last one that I have here is from Matt. How did your collaboration with the movie Talk to Me happen, and how did it feel hearing your music on the big screen?
Oh man, that was probably the biggest dub I've had in my career so far. So Danny Filippo was just a huge fan for a long time, specifically of my first album, which is funny because I don't know if you've seen these guys in interviews. It's two twins, and they're so animated. They're so happy in person. They're just like, they have this like insane energy to them, and it's really contagious. And it's interesting because knowing Danny in real life, he's so chipper. He's probably the most chipper person I've ever met. But he listens and loves like this really sad, dark shit that I do. And he would comment on some of my things on socials, and I'm like, who the fuck is this person with a ton of followers? So I asked my nephew, who's younger than me, I guess, obviously, and he's like, oh my God, I love them. And this is when they were YouTubers. So I was in tour in Switzerland when that happened. So I hit him up, and I was like, yo, it's, we should catch up sometime. And we hopped on the phone while I was out there on a FaceTime, and we started talking, and it quickly got to horror movies. And he was saying that he wants to transition to horror movies, and I told him that was my long-term goal, is I want to start writing and directing horror films. And so he sent me the treatment of what became Talk to Me, which or the idea when it was only like 6 to 8 pages. He sent me like early drafts, and I would give feedback and things like that. And I also gave him some of my treatments. So when he would go to these meetings, he had a stack of ideas, and I had one of the ideas in there that nobody picked, of course, but I didn't know it was going to be A24. He didn't. He was just like, we're making this movie. I told my wife when she met him, I go, remember this guy, he's going to be a horror legend, because he had great taste when we talked. He knew what good horror was, and more importantly, what's cheesy. And so I told her, I was like, he's going to be a legend. And then as he was making it, he would update me every once in a while, like, yo, we got the lead, or, it's getting made. And then one day he just FaceTimes me. And when he FaceTimes me, I know something's happening. And he was with the producer she produced the Babadook, and they asked to use my song, The Moon Smiled Back at Me. And there was no business talk, no numbers. I said, yeah, of course. And then they got into Cannes. He called me then, which I couldn't go because there were no hotels. But the night it premiered, within hours, A24 bought the movie. And so he hits me up. He's like, A24 is putting it out. And I'm like, just like that, I had music in the A24 movie, and it ended up becoming their most successful horror flick. So it's pretty amazing. And what was cool about it is Danny he said before, he's like, I'm going to use your music in a movie. And I was like, yeah, whatever you say, bro. Like, sure, have at it. And then a couple years later, he calls me. He's like, let's do it.
Wow.
Yeah, there's like a YouTube video that shows that whole process of like them going to Cannes and then A24 buying it. And it's so cool because it feels like a Rocky story. Because like, I don't know, like these guys seem like underdogs. And then they just made this amazing film. And then everybody collectively was like, no, the film is amazing. So
yeah, when they FaceTime me, my response wasn't excited enough to make that video. I was like, fuck, I should have got more excited. But yeah, they're amazing people, and they are underdogs in a way. Like they were already famous before they started making the movie, but they're two people who like earned every single thing they got, you know, like they made it out of nothing, and it's pretty incredible to see. Because I've met people who are dope artists and they're disappointing in person, you know, and like those guys are not like that. They're cool as fuck.
Yeah.
We got one more super chat. It's from Polterghost, who says, "Hey y'all, thanks for the content. Thanks for the music. Sadistic. If you were to write a children's book, what does the book cover art look like?"
Something that would get you banned from Facebook if you post it. It would be like Solo Sessions 3 or like some shit like that.
That's dope. Well, look, Sadistic, I just want to say thank you for giving us an hour plus of your time. We appreciate it. Dope ass listening. All of these have been dope, but you know the music that you definitely shared, it gets the Feefo approval bumping in the whip. 100%.
Did it.
Especially the early joint. Crazy.
Yeah, I'm gonna get you, bro. No, I appreciate you guys too. Like, what I do in my path has been like pretty isolated, and you know, I never know who's gonna cover me, and it's usually not a lot of people. So I really appreciate you guys have showed love and paid attention over the years.
No, 100
means a lot.
If we wouldn't have done it, Myke would have killed every single one of us.
Yeah,
so, you know, it's just we was kind of forced to, but you know, again, appreciative that you know we've tapped in. But before we get out of here, we always close with one final question from Modest.
Yeah, man. So I don't know if you follow these listeners, but it's always one I close out with. I just find it very fascinating. But and I'm sure you probably said it somewhere by this point throughout your career, but like, what's the story behind your name, your rap name? How did you get your rap name? Like, was it something before it was Sadistic, and then how did it happen?
I picked it when I was 13 years old, which to give you any kind of idea what kind of kid I was. But yeah, I picked it and I didn't really put much thought into it. I was just like, all right, this is it, it's my name. And then over the years, especially when I'm making like sad, prettier music, it's like, it was definitely kind of a misnomer in a way. And I'd have music industry people be like, we can't market this or this and that. And then it's like, whoa, then shit like Suicide Boys and like more intense names come out, and I'm like, you know, it can happen. But it was just something I picked as a kid. I learned about the word from a Necro song called The Most Sadistic when I was like pretty young. Wow. And I was like, I remember looking it up in a dictionary and I was like, that's cool. And at that point, if I'm being totally honest with myself, I really idolized Corrupt. Corrupt was the first rapper I ever tried to like copy when I was like 12. I tried to like write a Corrupt verse.
That's a great rapper to copy.
Yeah, so to me it was like Corrupt, Sadistic, like that shit's cool. Yeah, but it was a while ago though, man. It's like now it's just too late. It's like now my kid's gonna grow up and they're gonna be like, your dad's sadistic.
Yo, that's crazy. Like, yes, okay, so it never was anything else that you like from the start of your career. That's what it was.
It was probably the least thought out word I've ever written in my whole career, bro. It's like, that's cool, wrong with it. Yeah.
Damn.
That's dope. I mean, obviously it's like catchy, you know what I'm saying? It sounds good or whatever. I know it's not, that's weird to say, but no, it sounds like how it sounds though.
Yeah, it's definitely like a vibe check for people, because when I meet people in real life and they're like, what do you do? And then they ask my name, I've gotten a whole multitude of reactions. They're like, oh, you know, like, like, don't worry about it. You're not gonna like this shit anyway. Just go ahead and skip over it, you know.
It was like that. I remember for the joint actually. I think I can't remember if you had sent something or you were gonna send something for us for the joint, but we told the engineer like, yeah, it's Sadistic. He was like, he was like, oh, his name's Sadistic. It kind of took him aback too.
Yeah, especially religious people. Religious people get like, oh no, get him away from me.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
But I remember that. I remember that specifically when we told him that.
Yeah, I mean, my girl had to tell her dad that she's like engaged to a guy named Sadistic, and that was his response. He's like, his fucking name's Sadistic. Are you gonna marry me?
Yeah, that's a hell of a conversation.
Yeah, that's funny.
Dad, yeah, I'm marrying Sadistic.
What? Yeah. Yep.
Oh man, but nah. Again, appreciate your the time. You know what I'm saying? You're definitely gonna get much more love from Dead and Hip Hop. Let us know when that joint comes out, and we're definitely gonna review it. You know,
Hell yeah,
man. We make it a point for everybody that we have on the listening, their next project, we're definitely gonna promote. So
man, yeah, I'll send that to you. Hope you guys dig
appreciate
it.
it. Of course.
For sure.
Yeah, 100%. If it's close to what you already said, that joint gonna be bumping.
Yeah, it's mean. It's a meme project.
That's what's up. That's what's up. But again, man, we appreciate you. And
Appreciate you, man.
This won't be the
Appreciate
last
you,
time that
brother.
we have you on the platform. So
Yep. Good to see you, man.
Likewise.
So,
Cheers, gentlemen.
yes,
all
sir.
right,
Peace
bro.
out, man.
Appreciate you, man.
We out.
Peace.